rip the band-aid off with the bottom 10, so it only stands to reason that we hit the top films of the year. Before we hit the list itself, I wanted to give 3 quick disclaimers. Number 1, Dune will not be in my list. Make no mistake, I love Dune. It truly is one of the best of the year. Here's the thing though, Dune was intended to be taken with both parts in mind. This would be a 5-hour movie if the budget and the common moviegoer was willing to sit and watch a literal 5-hour movie, which, yeah, nah. And also, part 1 could be amazing, but part 2 could be a total crapshoot, making the overall experience just okay. So until Dune Part 2 comes out, which will be like, what, 2023? Then we'll revisit this movie and see where it falls on the list. Disclaimer number 2. I have not seen every single movie that came out this year. Even in terms of like the big budget, highly anticipated blockbusters, which usually I'm first in line for. No, I have not seen Eternals yet. Nope. That's because I saw crap that nobody saw. Because I'm a masochist who hates himself and real art. So if you don't see a movie on here that would otherwise be on yours, A, either I didn't see it, or B, tough freaking tamales. My list isn't the end-all be-all list, neither is yours. Grow up, get over it, move on. Come on guys, have fun comparing and contrasting. This is supposed to be fun. And the final disclaimer, you will notice movies that were technically released in 2020, theatrically. See, let's face it, the pandemic hit everything, including movie theaters. So if you're anything like me, and you didn't exactly want to go buy a movie ticket and risk getting sick, and you wanted to wait for these movies to be released on a streaming platform, which would not happen until 2021, I believe that's totally fair and totally counts. So I just wanted to give that heads up. So enough rambling, let's get to it. This is my honest top 17 films of 2021. I totally lied. Before we hit the list, here are some honorable mentions for Best Animation.
District Attorney Dent will work in the light, and you will work the other side.
Yamazakura, kawaii sono ha, boku wa suki.
Finish.
You're a dog. Uh-huh. Me too. Oh.
小罗刹，你真爱美呀！我不怕这臭泥水，我不怕。
Dicky dicky docka dicky dicky dicky. Hi, General Waste. We're going to, no.
Number 17. Spider-Man No Way Home. After Spider-Man's identity is revealed to the world, it causes problems, not just for Peter Parker, but for his friends. In a desperate attempt to fix this, he turns to Doctor Strange to make everyone forget his identity. However, the spell goes awry, and forces from alternate realities are brought into this world, and Peter has to deal with them. Meet the reason this is a top 17 list. Originally, this was meant for my pleasant surprise list, but the more I thought about it, the more I came to conclude that this was actually a triumph. Like, a serious one. As a superhero movie, as an addition to the Spider-Man film franchise, and as an addition to the MCU.
That'll do, Pig. That'll do.
If you missed out on my very first review of this channel, or my review for Homecoming, Spider-Man is a bit of a hit and miss. Homecoming was a ton of fun, whereas the only thing worth watching in Far From Home was Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. There was a staggering amount riding on this next installment. After all, when you think about it, 2021 was the franchise ender. No Time to Die was the end of the Craig Bond films, and No Way Home was the potential end of the MCU Spider-Man. Can anyone confirm without a shadow of a doubt that Tom Holland is officially signed on for more movies? I thought plans fell through. Anyway, no matter what the future holds, if this is the end of the MCU Spider-Man, then it's one hell of an ending. While I question just how much of a controversial figure Peter Parker is in the world at large, which is literally the only one downside that I have to the film, I mean, he helped save half the damned universe. This does have an impact on Ned and MJ and their future prospects. This is the true catalyst for Peter's desperation in talking to Strange about the memory wipe, which leads to the other big problem of the story, of failure in communication. Seriously, no one thought to sit down and hash out the details of wiping out everyone's memory, especially considering it's such a volatile spell that could spell disaster. I know. These are literally the only problems with the movie, hence why it's so low on my list, as well as its last-minute entry in said list. However, everything else surrounding these problems are amazing. To see the likes of Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin as portrayed respectively by Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe, who haven't played these characters in over a decade, it's fantastic, and they have just as much energy now as they did back then. Especially Dafoe, whose ability to bounce from weak and sympathetic to the pinnacle of pure evil with such fluidity is a testament to the man's eternal talent. Gotta warn you about light spoilers here, but it's hardly a secret anymore if you've been around the internet. And if you've not seen the movie yet, hurry the hell up, what's taking you? The return of both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as alternate Spider-Men? You bet my theater ripped a cheer for both men. Both of their takes were pitch perfect, and not even just here as a quick gimmick. They serve a function to the story. And this might be a controversial thing to say, but Andrew Garfield was always my favorite Spider-Man. I won't pretend that his movies were perfect. Lord knows that the disaster that was Amazing Spider-Man 2 gave Spider-Man 3 a run for its money in terms of letdown, but he was a Spider-Man that was updated and had a personality I gravitated toward more than Tobey. His appearance was what made this have a special place in my heart. Garfield in general had an awesome year, what with Tick Tick Boom and The Eyes of Tammy Faye. So to see his talent not just put to good use, but excel, that's reason enough to put this in my top 17. There's a whole lot more to gush over, but I need to wrap this up and keep the list moving along. I'll just close with, in a post-Endgame world, I was a little wary of any more additions to the MCU. But when the right talent is put in charge, thank you Sam Raimi, this proves to me that even though the Infinity Saga is done, the MCU is not. Hey, if we get more flicks like this in the future, color me hyped.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone.
Number 16. Loco por ella, Crazy About Her. Audrey is a man who thinks getting a woman to bed is a science, but his theories are thrown out the window when he meets Carla, who seems to be his equal in the art of meaningless flings. They part ways, but Audrey is convinced that he's fallen in love and desperately searches for Carla. He's successful, but discovers that she's living in a psychiatric care center, gets himself locked in on accident, but learns that she wants nothing to do with him due to her being bipolar. Unable to leave, he sticks around and gets to know the other patients and comes to understand them better.
Vivo en un palacio.
Claro que sí, cariño. Y tú deja de decir gilipolleces. Si estamos aquí es porque lo necesitamos.
Yo os veo bastante bien.
No tienes ni idea de por qué estamos aquí, ¿vale?
My luck when it comes to movies south of the border, they tend to be a little hit and miss. So I really wasn't expecting that much when I first saw this. But when I did, and gave it a little extra thought, I kind of fell in love.
You complete me. I love you.
I remember in the first half hour or so, I had this sucker figured out. It was about a near misogynist dude who falls in love with a girl who strips him of all his preconceptions about romance. But then the movie takes this route of mental illness. Again, I was fearful that mental illnesses would be played off for laughs rather than taken seriously, which is all too common, and it's outdated humor. And when it starts off, that's certainly the case.
¿Tú te crees que porque hemos follado una noche me conoces?
Venga ya. Cierto, ¿tú has visto a esta gente? Esto parece la parada de los monstruos.
Wow.
But as I got more into it, that seemed to be the point. The film's perspective is mostly from Audrey, who has an established worldview, and the whole movie is about showing him how little he knows, and the opening sequence with Carla is a complete summary of the entire story. He thinks Carla is normal, but he learns about her illness, the other patients, and comes to this realization that they're just people. Sure, jokes are made, but it's them who's making the jokes about themselves. These quips are made from a place of familiarity and self-awareness. Whoever made this movie had a clearer understanding of how mental illness should be portrayed, and it does a marvelous job of balancing its seriousness as well as tastefully making light of it. A rare accomplishment.
En episodios de euforia no piensas en las consecuencias, solo lo haces.
But at its core, it's a rom-com. It's not necessarily pushing any envelopes or bursting through any ceilings, but I'd be lying if I said I cared too much. It has its poignant moments. So, not only does that make it one of the best films of the year, but one of the most underrated.
¿Qué es esa mierda de que tú y yo no podemos estar juntos?
Eso lo dijiste tú. Que no querías saber nada de mí.
Pero tío, que yo soy bipolar, que cambio de opinión.
Number 15. The White Tiger. Balram retells his life story of how he went from a poor and lowly servant of a detestable but wealthy family and how he took his own power and became a powerful force himself.
To Dhanbad, where his family had made a fortune in coal. I knew then, this was the master for me.
Speaking on my own behalf, rags to riches stories have been done to death, and most of them have the same structure. Dude's down on his luck, luck finally strikes and he becomes rich, gets way too greedy for his own good and loses everything, and ends one of two ways. Either he learns how to live with the lesser things in life, or rightfully lives in his squalor. Seen it over it. But this one's kinda different. At long last, a rags to riches movie that I can really get behind.
Captain, my captain.
It's truly a fascinating story of how all this happens. Balram starts off knowing and accepting that he is a lesser person than his bosses, even enthusiastically acknowledging this. He caters to their every whim, plays dumb or acknowledges his own ignorance, and all using it to his advantage. He endures the less than savory treatment as a means to earn prestige and climb higher in their favor. I've never seen this in a movie before, and it was compelling to watch, to say the least. But it's not like he doesn't develop a friendship with the family patriarch's son. He's definitely new age and has a progressive mindset despite his extraordinarily privileged upbringing. For all intents and purposes, he's a likable guy who does his best to get his family to treat Balram with respect, even though it doesn't really work. With all that said, that's not suggesting he doesn't have those tendencies to wave around that silver spoon he was born with. Let's just say tragedy happens and he uses his status to avoid taking responsibility, ultimately showing that he's actually not that good of a guy.
It's all good now.
This is good? And this shit? I'm done. I'm done with this.
What follows is the reveal that everything Balram has witnessed and heard was an unintentional game of cards, and all the chips he's been collecting, it was time to cash out, and he cashed out big, using his status to gain the upper hand. I don't know about the rest of the world, but this was among the most satisfying endings that I've seen in a long time.
Just for an hour, just for a minute. What it means not to be a servant.
I love this movie. At long last, a rags to riches movie, but done fresh. Or at the very least, done in a way that I've never seen before. A true triumph.
There are only two ways to get to the top. Crime or politics. Is it like that in your country too?
Number 14. Till Death. Megan Fox is in an unhappy marriage and is having an affair with her husband's coworker. In an attempt to repair their faltering relationship, he takes them both to a lake house in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter, and things seem to be going well, right up until he murders himself the next morning, fully aware of her affair, handcuffed to her, and the key nowhere to be found. Things are made all the worse when a murderous home invader shows up.
Why couldn't you sit back and watch you live happily ever after with him? Happy anniversary, pumpkin.
Meet the reason this list was pushed to a top 16. I am absolutely smitten with this one. It's a terrific home invasion thriller with a dash of tongue-in-cheek humor. Seriously, fingers crossed this is the beginning of Megan Fox's comeback.
Will I be forever enslaved by your spell? Why must I worship you and never ever tell?
As far as I'm concerned, this is Fox's best performance of her career, as well as my personal favorite of hers. The material uniquely plays to her strengths as an actor, perfectly expressing the gamut of frustration and sarcasm. It actively lets you know that it's not supposed to be taken all that seriously, especially when it's revealed that the dead husband spent so much of his time in the night setting up this elaborate death trap and leaving behind recordings that are meant to show how much of a sadistic monster he is, and Fox's reaction to every situation is perfect.
How many fucking times did I wash lipstick and glitter off of your fucking shirts?
The entire setup is perfect, if I'm honest. Seemingly every obstacle thrown Megan's way has an answer the audience is no doubt screaming at the screen. She'll try that very obvious thing, and it won't work. Even the more clever ideas she has to make her life easier don't always work out. And for everything that goes wrong, it only gets worse with the home invaders that she has a personal tie to. The writing is textbook wonderful, presenting an already rock-solid foundation of conflict and doing nothing but build on it.
Do you really think that he sent you that text so you could come here and you could save me? Call the police!
Yo, Fox had a misstep with Switchgrass, but this was awesome. Having been seen as a sex symbol, then judged, then cast out of Hollywood, working from shit movie to shit movie, man, I am so happy that she got to be a part of this project, and I am so happy I got to see it. Seriously, Megan, hoping all the best for you, girl. Looking out for your next project.
I'm gonna cut myself free of you if it's the last thing I do.
Number 13. Herself. A woman leaves her abusive husband with her 2 kids and winds up homeless. She comes up with the idea to build her own home and builds a following of helpers.
What are we doing, Sandra? Do you think this is good for the girls?
God damn, I love Ireland's output sometimes. This hits everything I would want out of an emotional powerhouse movie. High levels of outrage, triumph, sadness, hope. It is one of the more cathartically relieving films of the year. Claire Dune clearly had something to say in this story. She doesn't hide much in the way of how abusive spouses work. The calm demeanor around the kids, the sudden outbursts of rage when things aren't going exactly as they want it to be, the manipulation and toxicity, the shifting of blame, and so much more and worse. Every time the husband shows up on screen, he tries to make it seem like Sandra is being unreasonable. He's getting help. Pretty sure he says that at some point, but you can just tell the way he slithers into what he really wants. It's enough to boil your blood and throw a brick at your screen. Hashtag, please don't throw a brick at your screen.
We want to try again. Try and make it work. For them.
I have to go.
I don't want to make it sound like that's the entire movie. It's not. More than anything, it's the struggles of this mother who is trying to literally build a home for her and her kids. It's a heartwarming story of a community coming together to help a person in need, the validation that good neighbors do exist and are willing to chip in to help however big and small their contributions. It's not a tale with the biggest stakes, but they're no less meaningful. It's the ultimate story about a woman finally given a damn break and who made the most of it, even if there were stumbles along the way. If ever there was a proper, strong, independent female movie that the SJWs can learn from, this would be the one. Because Sandra isn't strong alone, and she's not good at being independent. Each of those things she had to learn at her own pace under the right circumstances, and learned that she was at her strongest when she had help from both women and men. Imagine that!
It's just a little something to say thanks for today.
Oh, Sandra, you're so sweet, but you didn't have to.
There you go.
Hell no fucking complaints here.
Hey, Tom.
I will swear by this movie, provided you're okay with the harsh and difficult subject matter. This struck a particular chord with me that even Promising Young Woman didn't. That may be the better movie, but this is the one I prefer more.
Ask me questions like, why didn't you leave him? But you never ask, why didn't he stop?
Number 12. MINAMATA. Set in 1971, Johnny Depp is W. Eugene Smith, the famous photographer who spotlights the Minamata disease in Japan as caused by the gross apathy of the local chemical corporation, Chiso.
People are getting sick and dying. The people need help.
Here's to you, Johnny. This has certainly been the year for triumphs for actors who have desperately deserved them. From Andrew Garfield to Megan Fox, and now we can add arguably the most prolific actor of the bunch, Johnny Depp.
I stand up for sense and justice.
I said I was keeping that clip. It's easy to forget that once upon a time, Depp was one of the biggest names in Hollywood, and for damn good reason. He was an extraordinarily talented actor, giving us some of the most memorable character performances ever put to film. The 2010s was a dark-ass decade for the man, and his messy divorce from the husband abuser didn't help in the slightest. Well, I'm thrilled to say that if Johnny is on the verge of a comeback, then MINAMATA is a fantastic jumping point.
And most important, fuck up. Fuck up, because that's the only way to learn.
I have to believe that he took this role because he identified with it. Eugene Smith, if this biopic is to be taken as gospel, is a man who's had his time in the sun, went through his personal battles, still fighting a couple of them, and has grown depressingly complacent. That is, until he's reinvigorated by the tragedy at Minamata and the Chiso Corporation's disgusting negligence lights a fire under him to help make the world aware of their doings. Depp doesn't even look like he's acting. He looks genuinely angry at what's happening to these poor people, what's been happening to them for years, and the world at large doesn't know. He's appalled that the Chiso boss dude tries to bribe him to go back home and ignore everything, but is written in a way that when the corporation takes drastic measures to keep him from continuing in his meddling, he's scared. He genuinely feels for these people and the victims of the disease, and I honestly couldn't tell you where the actor ends and the character begins.
Gene.
As a reminder, MGM tried to bury this film because they didn't think it was good or didn't think it would make a lot of money. No. It's because of Johnny Depp and his legal battle, his very personal legal battle with his ex-wife. The fucking balls on these fuckers. And it's not enough that it's just a huge insult to Depp, who has done nothing but suffer at the hands of all this bullshit, losing role after role while she suffered no consequences. Once again, a mega corporation is silencing the people of Minamata, and their anguish is still ongoing in the 2020s. The very reason this movie exists, and they're actually doing it. MGM is doing the very thing that the bad guys in this story are doing. Where does it end with these fucking assholes? MGM is a steaming pile of corporate filth. And they still fucking are. Fuck you, MGM. Justice for Johnny. Justice for Minamata.
Focus on what you want to say. Do it now.
Number 11. Shadow in the Cloud. Chloe Grace Moretz is a World War II flight officer who is assigned to an all-male crew and is carrying a top-secret package. Despite reservations and unwarranted pickup lines, she is brought aboard. While in the sky, she spots a Japanese attack plane stalking them, as well as the silhouette of an unknown creature, but no one believes her until it's too late.
Hey, is that an actual girl on board? Can someone tell me what the hell is going on?
This is, unusual. I am fully aware that this probably belongs on my best bad list, but I couldn't help but put this on my top list. Because, make no mistake, this is a bad movie. But I was thoroughly entertained. The first movie of 2021, and it has stayed on my top list since then. This garbage fire has my undying respect.
And you will respect my authority!
Almost from the get-go, you can tell this was going to be an abnormal time. An obvious girl power kind of movie, seeing as Chloe is the only female cast member, but it's not as woke as I'm making it out to be. This may be a creature feature, but we spend a lot of time with Chloe isolated in her little hamster ball of death, but the constant heckling from the crew is hilariously bad and sexist. I won't lie though, what this movie manages to get away with in terms of every character being introduced and developed via an intercom system, the movie does do quite well, or well enough.
Sorry, we were just, complimenting.
Oh, you should be careful now. Wouldn't want me to get a big head.
I can give you a big head anytime.
But once the real shit hits the fan with the attack of the gremlin, it gets pretty fun. The action is so over the top that the 80s is wondering what took it so long to get here. There's not a single cut that doesn't make me laugh, cheer, or otherwise yell at the screen in pure entertainment. It's madness and awesome for all the wrong reasons. Though Chloe, bless her kick-ass heart, is trying so hard to give a good performance, and for the most part she kind of does. Far better than the movie deserves, let me tell ya.
You want me to give you permission? You wouldn't even know how to fire if I did.
I was being polite.
I fell in love at first watch, and it always brings a smile to my face. Yes, fine, it's a bad movie, but I've seen legitimately better films that were not as entertaining or memorably goofy. I'll watch this over most war films. Judge me if you want. But not only is this the best bad film of 2021, it is so entertaining that I had to put it as one of my favorite films of the year. Before we hit the top 10, here are some honorable mentions for best comedy and horror. For comedy.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Just the thought of actually having sex with you.
I know.
Now you don't wait for me.
Watch the
Wait,
kids.
Mom, who died?
I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Don't you have anything better to do than boo me?
We're ghosts! Yeah, booing comes with the territory!
Vad har du för idiotiskt motiv till att vilja mörda mig?
Det startar med att du är en lögnaktig jävla utro hore.
For horror.
No, I think he was shot too.
Welcome to the top 10. Let's get cracking. Number 10. Belfast. Set in Ireland in the 1960s at the start of the Troubles, a young boy navigates life in his hometown that is now divided between the Catholics and Protestants, all the while enduring his parents' increasingly strained marriage.
Are you not going to be a vigilante on our barricade?
No more talk about bloody barricades. That old nonsense will stop soon enough.
I am a big fan of Dairy Girls. So when the third and final season on Netflix hits, I'm going to be the saddest Peruvian boy on the face of the earth. Wasn't enough that I had to say goodbye to Anne with an E, now it's this one. What's another sledgehammer to the balls, am I right? Getting a little off track here. The point I wanted to make was that Dairy Girls was my introduction into the troubles that was plaguing Ireland, well, I guess the entirety of the United Kingdom if we're honest, at the time. That plagued them for decades, actually. So, that began kind of a fascination for that period of time for me. When I found out that this movie was about the Troubles, my interest was piqued. Helmed by the legendary Kenneth Branagh, he went on record to say that this was his most personal film. I believe this, because folks, it is his best film yet, or at least it's my favorite.
Belfast? Sure, why didn't you just sell away and into white slavery and be done with it?
Jerry, I'll be with them, Dad.
Well, that's worse. Should they hid his kind there?
My kind.
Pricks.
There is such love and care put into this movie. It strikes this perfect balance of making light of the situation as well as how serious and even scary it was. I mean, look at this. This dude is stalking a little kid, telling him to tell his dad to talk to him. What the actual fuck? When all is said and done, it feels like a slice of life. And that's part of what I loved so much about this. Even the more outrageous moments feel like they're just insane enough to have actually happened, even though I wager this isn't a true-to-form biopic of Branagh's life during those times.
They think you're trying to bluff them, but you have to double bluff them. Hi. You say, I'm a Protestant. But I am a Protestant, that's the point!
The writing is wonderful. The acting is pitch perfect from everyone. Jamie Dornan is great. The kid is really good. Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds really knock it out of the park as the grandparents. There's no shortages of respectable talent both in front of and behind the camera.
Yours ever skip?
You danced a bloody jig every time you walked in the room.
You're full of it then, and you're full of it now.
I love this movie. Branagh did a fantastic job. Here's to you, man.
Don't look back. I love you, son.
Number 9. The French Dispatch. A collage of short stories as told by writers of a famous newspaper called The French Dispatch.
Don't cry in my office.
Wes Anderson never fails to entertain and delight. What a fun and unique movie.
Smile, Gurney.
I am smiling.
This ought to be a little higher on my list, as I can relate to it a little bit more at this literal moment in time, as one of my day jobs got closed down. But I'm gonna give myself a break and acknowledge that this is a nostalgic feeling that won't last forever. In any case, Dispatch is a live-action cartoon that never stops putting a smile on my face. And despite the dizzying, rotating door of celebrities, no one's appearance is squandered. Even Timothée Chalamet, whom is usually not my favorite actor, has had a pretty solid year to me, putting his pretentiousness to good use as a college student who thinks he knows what's up, but is kind of just a prick. Everyone's wonderful and everyone's funny in their own way.
We didn't mean to offend you. We're sorry.
We thought you might decline the invitation if we warned you.
You were right.
Standout scenes include Benicio del Toro as the deranged artist. The climax of this section, where he's chasing Adrian Brody for insulting him while in a wheelchair, had me giggling like a kid. Any screen time they share was golden, but that was the punchline that made it all worthwhile. I enjoyed the little segment with Owen Wilson, and the kidnapped kid segment, that was a wild ride all its own. Even the climactic animation bit was bizarre.
You homicidal, suicidal, psychopathic, no-talent drunk!
Anderson will always be a talent worth keeping an eye out for. He doesn't make them often, but it's always a treat when he does.
No crying.
Number 8. Being the Ricardos. Nicole Kidman is Lucille Ball, and Javier Bardem is Desi Arnaz. They're struggling with the perception that Lucy might be a communist, Desi having an alleged affair, and the show I Love Lucy.
And you're Lucille Ball.
Use a line on me you've never road tested on anyone, I dare you.
This was practically designed for me to love. Nicole Kidman, who I've been simping hard for since I was a kid, thank you Batman Forever, and Javier Bardem, who's usually not in movies that I usually like. But this was a pretty good year for the man, and this being the clear winner of showcasing his talent. But more than that, it's a ton of fun, provided that the information being belted out at the audience is accurate. Hey, Lucy Arnaz says it's fantastic, so I'm gonna go with her.
Give it to him, Lucy! Nice punch!
What I adore is the chemistry between Kidman and Bardem. Individually, they are wonderful, but when they share screen time, they are so much fun and at their best. For as much as they argue, that's how much they love each other. There's nothing boring about their relationship, and there's always a sharp right turn to keep you hooked. The satisfying way they talk to the producers, that's always fun. Showing their respective flaws, like Lucy not being super supportive of her friend losing weight, it's more nuanced than I'm making it sound. Desi and his pride, which causes friction in his marriage, the material given to the stars is definitely worth the effort they put in.
About it, but right now.
Got it. Priorities. You're right.
Say that again. Is you're right?
No.
I love the recreation of certain scenes from the show. I'm sure that was oodles of fun for the actors. I also appreciate it's not frequent, a tasteful amount, showing more of the behind-the-scenes stuff and the personal lives of these main characters, which is far too often not the case for biopics. I mean, who knows the validity of what is portrayed, but hey, for what is shown, it's entertaining enough as a movie. Oh, and big ups to Tony Hale, who is usually a funny man in not so funny movies, and puts out a damn solid performance too, which took me by surprise.
She loses an earring.
Yes.
There it is.
What are you talking about?
In the grapes.
This was a wonderful little flick. Simple, easy, fun, heartbreaking. It's a little bit of everything, and I'm totally glad I saw it.
Takes me 5 days to get a laugh. He's killing it at the table read.
Number 7. Come On, Come On. Joaquin Phoenix is looking after his young nephew after his sister goes off to help her mentally ill husband.
Yeah, but why not just do something normal? Like
What's
everything
normal?
in your real life.
What's normal?
Okay, fine. Good point.
On its own, this movie is so good. Provided you like slice of life movies, which I personally adore, at least when done right. But it only gets better if you understand certain behind the scenes elements, which you can probably spot if you actually watch the movie.
Are you watching closely?
It still makes me smile to learn that this was the movie that reinvigorated Joaquin Phoenix's love of acting, and saying that it was working with the little kid that was a big part of that. That's a really heartwarming thing to say, and you can kind of tell that's the case from his performance. Much as I love Phoenix and his ability to seriously adapt to any strange role that he's given, it's his more grounded performances that I feel where he's at his best. He's positively glowing, as this dude who is way out of his element, yet the irony is that his entire job is to go around asking kids and young teenagers what they think the future is going to be like, yet relating to his own nephew is a far bigger struggle. I mean, I guess that's a given, but the point is that their chemistry feels so real. They get on each other's nerves, but they have laughs. They lose their cool, but they also learn from each other and find their own unique common ground.
You know, you just have to
explain to him that you were scared and that's why you yelled, and then you apologize. You know, he's a person. You just be honest with him.
Woody Norman is perfectly casted as Jesse. He's a weirdo, he's energetic, he's annoying with all the personal questions, he's angry, absent-minded, confused, and all portrayed in a way that feels authentic. Clearly, writer-director Mark Mills knew what he was doing, and I have to assume this was a very warm, supportive, and welcoming environment for the young man. I guess my only nitpicks are that I felt like certain background information, like the brief falling out between Phoenix and the sister, seemed unnecessary, and didn't quite factor into the story in any meaningful way. But I figure if that's the only real issue, then this was a downright great movie. And it is indeed a downright great movie.
You know, when you're not in your zone, like your zone of resiliency, it's okay to not be fine.
Phoenix's performance alone would be enough to get my ass in a seat. But when taken in conjunction with the fantastic performance out of young Norman, the wonderful directing and writing from Mills, it all culminates into one of the more poignant and heartfelt films of the year.
The question is, why do you want to do it?
You are just terrible at this.
Oh man, I'm trying.
Number 6. One Night in Miami. Loosely based on true events. Famed boxer Cassius Clay, aka the future Muhammad Ali, controversial activist Malcolm X, jazz musician Sam Cooke, and football player Jim Brown get together after a big win for Cassius. What starts as a night of friendship is soon escalated by Malcolm to discuss the racial problems they all face, and the subject is not universally a discussion they all want to have.
That's his job.
Oh, that's his job? To tell the other crackers that you're one of the
To
good
do
ones.
what I ask him to
You
do.
quit the philosophical debate for 5 seconds. Ain't you just heard Jim say he's getting blue balls?
In a damned sea of race politics being shoved in our faces, desperate activists posing as artists and storytellers, race-swapping established white characters to promote their agendas, this feels like the antithesis of what we've been seeing. This movie feels so grounded, so intelligent, kind of perfectly timed too, and has something to say.
Taking some time out of our daily lives to sit down and have a little chat.
What I personally adore about this movie is how it seems to be a reflection of how modern audiences feel about the discussion of racism as a whole. Yes, it's important. Yes, it affects us all. But man, I thought we were here to have fun and congratulate our friend. But of course, Malcolm, being who he is, has to push this topic, so of course we gotta hash this out.
Kennedy getting assassinated is just another one of those white devils getting what they deserve. Well, I like JFK, man. My mama cried when he died. Mine did too.
The back and forth they all have, the differing opinions and ideas, the way they butt heads, and few of them ever sure of whether or not they're right. It truly comes from a place of passionate uncertainty, if that's a thing. But it's not just about Malcolm calling everyone white devils and pushing his friends to join his way of thinking. They do find time to talk about their personal lives, show each other support, offer criticism, bust each other's balls, or even get mean-spirited. It never really loses sight that these men are friends going through their own things. Sometimes the discussions get ridiculous, but I feel like that's intentional within the writing, which is good.
Why don't you become a Muslim too?
Shit. Have you tasted my grandmother's pork chops? And I like white women too. Fuck that.
This was my number 2 favorite flick of the year for a while. But part of the reason why it got bumped out of my top 5 is because I am still kind of burned out on the discussion of racism, especially if it's brainless. But I am very happy that I saw this one. Regina King's directorial debut is awesome, and I can't wait to see what else she does. Here's to you, girl.
I am implying that brothers like Sam and you and Cassius, you all are our greatest weapons.
Not anyone's weapons, Malcolm.
Before we hit the top 5, here are the honorable mentions for best dramas.
I thought you were writing about Nicole. So did I.
political power flow for the barrel of a gun.
Gorgeous, though. Who needs brains? They never did a girl any good.
Henry McHenry is not allowed to make the public laugh to death.
Ouais, alors? Et alors? Tu veux devenir officier? Fais cette opération.
Eugénie Guéry, la plus belle du mal!
Écoute pas ce qu'elle dit, c'est une exaltée.
It's very important that we as mom and dads love through anything. And that's the way with Jesus.
When did we get married, Jude?
It was a Wednesday.
Grief and loss. And a lot of them don't get over it either. And that's okay.
You were my friend until I actually became a threat. The second I'm your competition, you turned on me.
Okay, for the top 5, we're doing something special. Going from just simple champagne to a Bellini. Drinking that fancy shit. Peachy. Anyway, top 5. Let's hit it. Number 5. Tick, Tick, Boom. A musical biopic of famed theater composer Jonathan Larson, whose passion for his craft is polarizing but different. And the more chances he's given to show the world what he can do, it causes rifts in his relationships.
I just wish that you didn't have to think like that.
Well, it's expensive to make art.
No, baby, it's expensive to make art here.
Yeah, but worth every penny.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Andrew Garfield. 2021 was a fantastic year for the man. If he ain't redeeming himself in the spider suit, or charming the pants off of me to praising the Lord in the eyes of Tammy Faye, he is still charming me with his newfound talent of singing. Yeah, fun fact of the day if you didn't already know this, he was never a singer before this movie. He had to train himself. Well, I think he took classes, but still, he learned to sing specifically for this role. And by God, is he so good! I feel like after the unceremonious crumbling of the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, Garfield had a bit of a rough go for a spell, starring in movies that haven't been widely seen, or worse, beloved. Even I had a hard time keeping up with his career after his sequel Spider-Man flick. One could argue that's still the case, but here's hoping that 2021 is his comeback year and Tick Tick Boom promises a slew of incredible projects down the pipe for the man.
Well, you know, when Superbia gets produced, I will be getting paid for my music anyway, so that's true.
This is a beautiful story as we learn about Jonathan Larson's early life before his success. Usually, I'm not into musicals, or it has to strike a particular chord that tickles my fancy that not many do. So when Garfield fired up his pipes, I was... Actually, the very first song was a little rocky sounding. I don't know, something about his pitch sounded off to me. Everything after was great, of course, but it was just that first song that had me on guard. As soon as Boho Day starts playing, everything switched to near perfection. Garfield's energy is super magnetic, and he's allowed to seriously express. But it's not just the happiness that gets you hooked. His ability to transition from being peppy to panicky to full-on tragedy is inspiring. No joke, if Garfield doesn't get an Oscar nom, I'm boycotting the Academy Awards.
If I were you and I done what I done, I'd do what you did when I gave you the ring, having said what I said.
Garfield carries the film so masterfully that I don't even think Vanessa Hudgens was enough to bring it down.
Out of all the offenders during the early days of COVID, I still think she's a worse offender than Gal Gadot ever was.
even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible, but like, inevitable?
But the movie puts your emotions through the ringer. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll tap your foot. And the fact that this is also Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut, I can't tell you what kind of a shock this was all around.
Thank you for being here. Wild horses, John. You know that.
Just thinking about this movie brings a smile to my face for so many different reasons. Fantastic performances, marvelous first-timers in both Andrew Garfield as a singer and Lin-Manuel Miranda as a director. The wide range of emotions, catchy music, straight up, this is my pick for the best soundtrack of the year as well. So, with great pride, I award Tick Tick Boom my number 5 spot in my list.
This is the life of This is the life of Bohemia.
Number 4. Free Guy. Free City is an open-world video game where gamers can do whatever they want. Guy is a non-player computer character who has somehow become self-aware and wants to be a hero. However, his world is threatened when the owner of the video game learns of Guy and tries everything he can to get rid of him before he causes problems.
If you don't want to shoot people, you could steal their guns. All that shit makes your level go up. Go be the good guy.
Okay, no, I'm gonna be a great guy.
Ooh, okay.
Boy, this came out at the perfect time! I've made it no secret that I keep up with video game news, so I am fully aware of the abuse lawsuit at Activision Blizzard, the abuse allegations at Ubisoft, the gender discrimination at Sony, in addition to one of their head honchos very possibly intending to have an illicit affair with a teenage boy, among several other horror stories across the industry.
Hey, so remember that PlayStation executive that was caught in a vigilante sting operation trying to meet up with a 15-year-old? He's been fired from Sony. Good. Now hopefully there's legal repercussions too.
So when I saw this, I wasn't prepared for how critical it would be of said industry. And not even in a preachy way, like a PureFlix religious movie or an SJW anti-white anything right now, but in a hilarious and creative way.
Bully! Yes, bully!
The easiest thing to compliment is Ryan Reynolds. If you're a fan of him doing his shtick, then you'll be in a good place. The man is clearly having fun, has great comedic timing, has great chemistry with the other actors, and has some truly fun action scenes. Some a bit more product placement-y than others, but it almost feels intentional in an artistic way, rather than just flexing over a company's owned IPs. Everyone else does a splendid job as well, from Laurel Howery to Jodie Comer, and Joe Keery was his own kind of hero as the paragon of small indie devs who just want to make a good game. Though how many indie developers make open world games as rich with content as Free City is, I'm sure hasn't happened. Still, fun set of parallels.
The first time I kissed a non-toxic guy in like forever, and of course he's not even real.
Now, to the villainous chewer of scenery, Taika Waititi. While I firmly believe the man needs to be grounded from using social media for a while, he is so goddamn brilliant in this. He is the perfect personification of modern gaming development, who wants to make the next video game by essentially copying and pasting the older game and calling it a sequel, knowing that the brand name is going to essentially sell itself. More money for less work and the potential for more egregious monetization. But the character Antoine himself is so funny. He does meditation. He wears all the trendy outfits. He talks like a TikToker. He overacts like everything is DEFCON 1. And Taika is 100% endearing.
Make it original? Why would I do that when I can make a sequel?
Sequel, so we can make it better?
IPs and sequels. That is the thing that people want.
It's not perfect, make no mistake. It's not exactly subtle with certain reveals, and I'd be lying if I said the very aesthetic of Free City Just looks like every unlicensed Hollywood video game out there looking closer to a mobile app game. But I know better than to take it that literal, or most of these flaws, all that seriously.
What the shit?
There is a kooky heart to this, and that's pretty rare to see in a movie like this. But that's what makes this great. Not to mention, it's a story about an indie developer persevering over the greedy corporate AAA developer.
Hey, buddy. Let's not have a good day. Let's have a great day.
Number 3. The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Katie Mitchell has a passion for making videos, but doesn't get along with her more traditional father, Rick, who is a bit of a technophobe. She's about to go off to college, so in a last-ditch effort to repair their broken relationship, he takes them on a road trip to drop her off and make some fun memories, all against her wishes. Meanwhile, new helpful robots have been unveiled to the world, but a bitter artificial intelligence named PAL has assumed direct control over the robots and has begun a global cleanse of the human race. Despite the odds, only the Mitchell family is left to set the world right.
Teach yourself Photoshop to figure this thing out. That wasn't like Photoshop.
It is so hard to talk right now. For damn good reason, this is my pick for the best animated film of the year. It's amazing. Unlike Sony's last attempt to make a 90-minute commercial that ego strokes itself, this actually has clever commentary, endearing and humorous characters, terrific animation, low-key LGBTQ plus representation, a good story, and positive emotional impact. It's everything I would want out of a family-friendly film. Out of any film, really. What I appreciate is the grounded approach to commentary on modern technology. Katie surrounds herself in it, uses it as a means to build on her passion. However, Rick is of that mindset that technology takes away from intimacy, being a more traditional, outdoorsy, and handy guy who just doesn't quite understand the ever-changing landscape of technology. The constant butting of heads is both heartbreaking and funny. You know where each is coming from and what they want out of each other, but neither is very good at communicating that or being receptive to it. Still, you understand both sides of the equation and love the respective journey these characters take.
Turn them off permanently!
What, Dad?
This is necessary so they can't track us. Trust me, this is causing me no joy.
And special attention must be given to Monchi the Pug. And if this upcoming clip doesn't convince you to watch this movie, then, well, I hate you. And you should see it if you want me to like you again.
Is that a dog or... Dog, pig, dog, pig, dog, pig, pig, dog, loaf of bread, system error.
This is all the proof I need to tell the parents of the world the difference between a good kids movie and a bad one. It's something even adults can get behind. 32 years on this planet, but still a kid at heart. Thank you, Mitchells vs. the Machines.
What is this?
Hey everyone, quick interruption. All of my audio from this point on for some reason got really muted, so I'm doing a whole lot of re-recordings. So basically you're not going to see my mug for the rest of the video, and it's just going to be audio. My bad, I don't know what happened, but let's carry on. Number 2. CODA. The Rossi family is a family of deaf people, with the notable exception of teenager Ruby, who struggles with her family's dependency on her, as well as pursuing her own dreams and desires.
It's good. New one.
For all intents and purposes, I think this is the best film of the year. Star Emilia Jones is the reason I decided to check out her show, Lock and Key, on Netflix. Recommended because she's that good in this. And it's not even just her. The entire cast, Marlee Matlin as the mother, Troy Kotzer as the dad, and Daniel Durant as the brother, everyone has their moment in the sun. What I adore is how wonderfully the story balances everyone's personal and collective dilemmas. It spotlights how even deaf people don't always know how to communicate with hearing people. As in, reading lips isn't just an inherent ability they have, which I stupidly didn't know. How they have their flaws in making assumptions about those they don't always relate to, and how wires get crossed even when they try.
Maybe we can call them herring bitches?
Frank and Jackie obviously mean well, but they are products of their circumstances and believe trying anything different would be too costly or too demanding. This is something Leo wholly disagrees with, seeing firsthand how dependent their parents are on Ruby. And she just so happens to be a wonderful singer. Her teacher thinks she has real talent and could really make something out of her life. But in order to do that, that means leaving her parents high and dry, and she's constantly guilt-tripped or made to feel bad about what she wants. This provides a constant game of tug-of-war, when her commitments to her family take her away from singing, which pisses off her teacher when she's late.
I've never done anything without my family before.
Literally my only complaint with the film is Eugenio Derbez as the teacher. On the one hand, this is far and away the best performance of his career. When he's called to tap into a more dramatic side, he's fantastic, and for once I can take him seriously.
I have a lot going on.
Me too. Me too. I have a whole life that has nothing to do with you.
But when he's not, and that subpar funny man takes over, he's severely out of place, and almost feels like he belongs in How to Be a Latin Lover all over again. Please, God, kill me first.
You know what Bowie said about Bob Dylan? A voice like sand and glue.
But when it comes down to it, it's a movie I haven't quite seen before. Okay, yes, parents pressuring their kids to do what they need them to do rather than letting them do what they want to do is a tale as old as time. But the way the story presents it, not being afraid to tackle the flaws and struggles of this misunderstood community, teetering them as loving but anxious, it's truly a beautiful film about this family trying to find equilibrium with one another. Bring tissue because it really is the emotional powerhouse film of the year.
Bring us your catch, and we'll double what you're getting now.
Before we hit the number one spot, here are the final honorable mentions for Best Action.
Flip 'em. Okay. Coffee, anyone?
She'll call you back.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You point a gun at my pussy and then you ask me to bed? I like your style.
We're in outer space!
Told you numbers don't lie.
This is much worse than I thought. That is a red one. Red one. We should leave.
Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet, motherfucker!
And my number one favorite film of the year, Space Sweepers. A ragtag group of broke-ass scavengers, or space sweepers, find an android stowaway aboard their ship that looks like a young girl. She is the target of both a terrorist group and the space police force, as controlled by an evil corporation who want to apprehend her. Despite their best efforts to get rid of the android, the sweepers uncover the reasons as to why she's so wanted by dangerous and powerful people.
짜증나네. 찾아주면 부모가 사례금 좀 주지 않냐?
How could it not be my favorite movie of the year? I mean, there's probably 1,000 more obvious movies that would make anybody else's list, like Spider-Man, so I might have to justify this a little. Starting, well, right now.
Here we go.
The easiest pitch I can give is this. If you like Guardians of the Galaxy, Firefly / Serenity, or even Cowboy Bebop, no, the real Cowboy Bebop, there we go, then this is something that's going to feel familiar, yet oddly fresh. You have a ship that's constantly breaking down, a crew that doesn't get along at all, caught up in a situation that they're not in any way, shape, form, in no way remotely qualified to deal with, but rise to the occasion for the greater good and learn what it means to be a real girl.
나 사실 피부 이식 계획 중이다. 골격 개조까지 하면 한 2만 정도 된다고 하더라고. 야매로다가.
And isn't that what we're all doing in this rat race? Isn't that everyone's great life ambition? Isn't that what we're all striving to accomplish before we're all dead and buried? You miserable middle-aged or middle-aged approaching decrepit personification of middle-class anxiety, you're damn right it is. We're all sisters of life, and don't let no corporate shit stain tell you otherwise.
Truth is you're all fat sluts, and that's called sisterhood.
Speaking of corporate shit stains, that's the other thing that this story does that wins my heart and soul. It's anti-corporate! And that really hits me where I live. I already gave you my anti-corpo spiel, so I won't bludgeon you again. The point I want to get across is when a movie shares my sentiments by making it about the little guys, sticking it to the rich, manipulative, and powerful, I'm at the edge of my seat, and I instantly want the protagonists to win. I don't even care how. Big explosion or bringing to light their corruption, it's all a satisfying end to cancer culture. Trademark.
Workers risk their lives to chase down space debris, flying 10 times faster than a speeding bullet just to be able to afford their next meal. Look.
I can see that the only real thing that stands out about the villain Sullivan is that he's the only notable white guy of the movie. Other than that, he's just a cookie-cutter, routine, I'm so powerful and evil, I can full-on murder someone and be lackadaisical about it. The movie tries to make him a big deal by making him both the richest and oldest dude alive, and give him creepy black veins and a deep, booming, mechanical voice, which I don't think was ever really explained, but all he does is talk menacing rather than do anything menacing. Honestly, his police force is more menacing than he is. Obviously, this isn't the fault of the actor. In fact, Richard Armitage is quite fantastic in terms of his screen presence, but it would have been nice if there was a bit more to Sullivan.
That there is no hope left on Earth.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Sullivan.
We gotta talk about the other aspect that makes this all the more impressive, the budget. You need to understand something here, especially if you've seen something like Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians had a budget of about $200 million. That's actually pretty standard for God Emperor Disney, but when you pit that against the budget of Space Sweepers, which is 24 billion won, which translates to a paltry $21 million, and when you actually see the movie and how good it looks, then you just might understand why a God Emperor Disney flick looking as good as they do is meeting a standard, not going above and beyond. What am I saying? I'm saying for the budget that Space Sweepers had, this looks just as good as any film by the House of Rat, but is significantly better to watch because it's a damn good story.
태호 삼촌이랑 장사했는데 $23 벌었어.
감사합니다. 감사합니다.
Beyond that, there is a genuine beating heart to this, which is absolutely crucial to a film like this with its goofy-ass plot and characters. The crew is normally out for themselves, doing their own things and being downright selfish. But as this little girl grows on them in their own ways, giving them the confidence to pursue their dreams, giving them motivation to protect and fight for someone other than themselves, or have the courage to confront the shadows of their past and move on the best way they can, they all come together to tackle the bigger threat and willing to put themselves on the chopping block for the greater good.
아직 다 못 그렸는데.
In its own fun and oddball way, it's inspiring. There's a reason why I compare this to the likes of Guardians of the Galaxy, Firefly, and Cowboy Bebop, because both feature a crew that don't always get along, but they have that level of maturity to know when it's time to grow up, saddle up, and get to work. At the end of the day, they are their own little family, though I appreciate Space Sweepers just a bit more for never actually saying the word, letting the audience be mature enough to figure it out on their own. Not that it's hard to see what this story is shooting for, but it's a story I truly don't get tired of, especially when it's done right. And when you can tell that the filmmakers put so much passion into the project, I have nothing but the utmost respect for this movie. It's a wonderful little film. If you haven't checked it out on Netflix, I highly encourage you to do so and give this ragtag team of heroes a chance.
난 너 해낼 줄 알았다.
That's it, y'all. My list is over. I will be doing deep dives for both Space Sweepers and Earwig and the Witch. Be a while for those, so don't expect them soon, but they are officially on my docket. Let me know in the comments what your favorite movies of the year were. Let's have fun comparing and contrasting each other's lists. See you around, stay safe and healthy out there, guys.